Hi,
How are
how
you?
is everybody?
Hey y'all, how are y'all? So what you been up to, Gretchen?
Well, it's been a wild week. I think I told you my son had got injured, so I had to, you know, I,
Has he
I dealt
been?
with the healthcare system this week a bit more than usual. But that's okay. All is good. So that's what's important. So how about you?
It's been one of them weeks for me also. Physical therapy, so I'm out of breath. First time in 2 weeks because he didn't get to come last week. So yeah,
Hmm.
been one of those weeks. Let's just say glad it's over getting. This is Friday, thank God, right?
Yeah.
Try to fix
No
this stuff.
storms for you, right? No storms for you.
Um, where's that storm at? Because I just got an alert.
Geez,
Um,
another one.
yeah, I haven't even looked at it yet. I got an alert saying on my radar, but we're under a heat advisory for 2 days too.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Honey,
been hot.
honey.
I
Yeah.
mean, um,
Kathy, thank you. Kathy's always like the miracle worker.
yeah, she is. I
She's
I don't
very
know how Kathy, I don't know how you do it because I see you on so
oh,
many different streams. She
hit
is
private, hit private chat. Look what she's going through.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Kathy, stay safe.
Mhm.
Please stay safe. Yeah, Kathy is the freaking miracle worker. I don't know what I don't
Yeah,
know.
she is magical, you are right.
Hey,
Hi, Brian.
Brian, how are you? Yeah, Kathy is like, yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all something. That girl, I don't even have the energy, half the energy. I guess it's age. I don't know, but she's good.
I know. Yeah, I do see her on a lot of whether she's in the chat or whether she's modding, I mean, she does it
She's
yeah.
supportive, very supportive.
So thank you, and thank you to, our other folks that help us, Mandy and, Hockey
John,
John.
yes.
So, we're really happy about that, to have everybody here. So what are we doing today? We're just doing kind of informal, kind of chit
Get to
chat,
know
Q&A?
get to know your creators. How about that one? That
Yeah,
sounds pretty good,
yeah.
huh?
Um, and talking about
DJ Nico, hey.
anything. Hey, Nico.
Um, yeah, just pretty much. I think we need some levity, probably because we've had some pretty tough topics, and we still have a part two to do with Brian. I had to
Mhm.
get with him and get that, but I think we just needed some levity. That was a real rough one.
Yeah. A real little difficult, um, but all the same really important, really,
Ac- Absolutely.
to talk about, and, definitely appreciate you, Brian, for talking about what you did, and, not always easy, especially in this kind of forum, but really appreciate it, and
Yeah.
PTSD, and I posted something in the Facebook group, we're talking, or you guys were talking about, what's complex PTSD and PTSD, and a lot of people know what the difference is, but just kind of what distinguishes them because
Yeah.
a lot of
There's just
overlap.
two. It's just, I mean, I don't think they realize, people realize it's really the two main factors from what I have looked up. I mean, two main categories or symptoms, maybe is the word I'm looking for, that really, that really truly separate it. But I'm not sure. So you tell me because you're the psychologist,
Well, so how I understand complex PTSD
which is
is
what I have, and I don't even understand it myself.
so there I mean, there are a lot of it's Friday, right? A lot of overlapping
Hey.
symptoms. Yeah. So things like hypervigilance, avoidance, um, the nervous system arousal, all those things are still, in both. When we talk about how PTSD or CPSD develops, usually in most not most, I shouldn't say, but a lot of people do have CPSD without even realizing it. CPSD, can develop from an ongoing situation, like they're currently actually can be still in, that is very traumatic, very strongly emotionally traumatic, or a series of different events throughout their life, that it's like trauma kind of stack up. I don't know, for lack of a better word. Um, or a period of time where there was an ongoing trauma, but that's been passed. So there's kind of, and probably a couple other conditions I'm not quite thinking of, but complex PTSD. So it's actually a series of ongoing traumatic events, and those can be the same thing, but it's ongoing, or it can be like I said, distinctive kind of different traumas. So that's because
Yeah.
PTSD, sometimes people don't get fully resolved on, not fully resolved, I shouldn't use that term, but like kind of get some resolution or healing within themselves before another trauma hits them. So that can be tough, and that can be kind of thus complex PTSD. Whereas oftentimes we think of PTSD as like one event where there's a significant threat of harm, or a lot of cases
Uh,
death. Or a lot of times we also talk about vicarious trauma, right? Vicarious
yes.
trauma is like hearing about something that's very traumatic.
Oh,
That happens a
Nico,
lot.
good one.
Compounding
Let me put it
trauma.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, Nico. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I I like that. I mean, I don't. I mean, that's the gist of it. I think right there. Mine
Yeah.
was. They said because it stemmed from childhood. I never resolved it. Um, Never talked about it. Just stayed in there on top of more trauma, on top of more trauma, on top of more trauma. So you're right, Nico. That's a pretty real definition of it. I mean,
And sometimes even, I mean, if you think about it, what you're talking about, we need some levity, the because we're all part of this community here.
mhm,
Um, Watching some of the content just day to day that we think, "Oh, well, this, I'm used to hearing some of these stories," or, I've heard such and such, their personal story, but we may not know like really understand how it hits us sometimes. And
yeah.
so and be aware of like where we're at. So wondering like how do people decompress, or does anyone need to decompress after watching
Hey,
content, especially on
Sophie.
YouTube? Yeah. Hi there.
Yeah, just
Nice to see you.
I'm sorry. I dropped my remote. I told you I have dropped everything this week. I mean, everything I put my hands on.
But your dogs are quiet. I don't hear them.
Don't say the keyword.
Yeah.
They're all hushed now. 'Cause I'm not in there making them mad. They're in their kennels. But yeah, you're right about that. Like because I can watch somebody else just being in the chat to support them, one of the
Mhm.
creators, and I
Yeah.
have a really rough time. Like if it hits me, like I'm like, how are they going through this? When it hits me, it's just somebody here to support. As heavy as it does. Hey, powerless, paralyzed. How are you? But yeah,
Hi
I
there.
think it's a lot. And
Yeah.
we had a little thing going on in chat, and I'm not sure. Maybe it's one of our mod chats or somewhere, but talking about your when our spouses or our family don't know what we're actually doing, or we get told we're in a cult because we're constantly on YouTube.
Mhm.
That's a real thing, especially here at my home. If I even talk about what I'm doing, it's like, oh, you're in a cult. Get out of that.
Mhm.
You're in a cult. No, I'm actually not, and so I'm doing things I want to do to help people and to be there
Right.
for them. And plus, I don't really go anywhere. I have friends and all this parasocial, sure, but there's friends that I've put my arms around their neck that's in these chats and that are creators. They are real people, and I have friends on here, and that's if I
Right.
can do anything to help them, I'm going to.
Right. Yeah. And it is interesting because sometimes I feel like, gosh, I know it feels like you know them. I mean,
Yes,
even if you have never talked to them in your life, you've chatted with them in the chats, or you've seen their, whether if they're creator or whatever, and feels very, there's that connection, which, can be a good way to kind of support one another and kind of decompress, right? And just kind of
it is.
breathe out, you know?
Yeah,
So,
that's why I love like when some of the creators have Q and A's. like we were doing now. I mean, I absolutely really enjoy that because it's that levity that you can just there's not a topic, there's not a there's not a oh gosh, we have to it's something that hi Hunter, welcome in. It's something that most people just need. I mean, I know all people need. I know I do. Just from the work that I do at work and in life and then
Mhm.
on here. There's really not a break in just to sit down and have some laughs or talk to somebody with having a conversation. Like I have a friend that I've never met, but I talk to him about I mean, if I have a question about anything, I call him.
Right.
And I mean, I met him through, SPTV, but I've never met him in person, but I promise you, if I have a question and I trust him implicitly, however you wanna say it. It's just I
Mhm.
really do because and it's hard for me to put trust in, especially this community has got a we know that the trauma they've been through. So when I put my trust in someone, it's not lightly. I don't do it lightly. And I've got
Yeah.
friends that I trust on here that I don't trust as much in real life. So,
Well, how that's a good question because I think that comes up a lot in trauma work is trust, right? Because 'Cause there's been
mhm.
in some for some people, a violation of trust, a really strong violation of trust. So how do
Hey,
you
Izzy, Dizzy. I'm sorry. I was
hey
telling
there.
him, hey,
No, no, that's good. Nice to see you, Dizzy Bang Bang,
Shauna,
and Sophia.
Sophie.
So how do you know? Like, how for you, what do you look for, like, for trust? I mean, like, is there certain things you just like, it's a feeling you get or
I guess being an empath really that's a helpful one.
Mhm.
But when I first okay, so I'm gonna use my friend. When I first started talking to him, um, we were texting, we were Facebook Messenger first, and then I got to where I could, I felt I mean, everything he was telling me, he was saying, "Watch what's gonna happen next. Watch what's
Yeah.
gonna happen next." And he was correct about it, first of all. He wasn't trying to lie to me, he wasn't trying to, and then I felt comfortable enough, we exchanged phone numbers, and then one night I couldn't text and talk I mean, drive and text, so I just called. I thought, "I'm just gonna
Mhm.
call him," and I called him, and I talked to him all the way home, and
Yeah.
then I would send him in something that I needed, like, if I had a question about that I didn't really wanna ask anybody else, I would text it to him, and it would be a few minutes or maybe a few days, but he always brought me back the answer, and it was always right. I mean, and then we just gained that. It was just
Yeah.
something he's never, ever done me wrong. He's never made it even where I doubt him. And that just comes from I mean, it took a while. We were messaging and stuff, and I would
Mhm.
ask him questions. But you know what? I found a friend, and I found a friend that I can trust, and I take that I mean, that's just so important.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, and, um, especially when you look at different people, first, this is and how we all met is through, like, an ex-Scientology,
Mhm.
ex-cult community. So there's that. There's some innate kind of I'll go on a limb here, innate some mistrust going on just in general of people, and rightfully so, for people that,
Rightfully
um,
rightfully said.
can be, right? So, and then you have the parasocial or the online kinda thing that a lot of times raises an eyebrow, like, how much can you trust people you meet online? But, yeah, I hear you. It's like you kinda slowly kinda feel it out and see if you can trust.
And probably
Um
because seeing him in more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 creators chats and plus I saw a lot in, God bless him, Doug, you know, and if Doug says something about someone, I don't doubt him. When I love that man, I'm gonna tell you something, he was a friend. And,
Mhm,
so if he sticks up for somebody, yeah,
mhm.
you you tend to that helps.
Yeah,
And then I don't know, it's really hard to trust people because, I mean, look what Reese is going through. She had people that she really trusted that has turned around and just been
yeah.
really
Yeah,
horrible.
no, it's hard, and sometimes you have to kinda put yourself out there and go on your intuition and go on your,
Yeah.
thought there and trust yourself and slowly trust, and then sometimes hopefully, it mostly works out. Shauna B
Yeah,
says,
and
"I miss Doug." Yeah.
I know, I miss him every single day for sure. His wise man. He was wise. Doug was the
Hamina
loner.
Hamina mentioned, they say narcissistic relationships a cult of one. That type of abuse leaves a lot of scars. Thanks.
Yes, we are
You
going
started.
to get we are
Yes.
going to get into that in a very coming future. Of
Yeah.
That's going to take
Um,
a more than a 1 week, I think, span.
it's interesting if I'm going to shout out someone's YouTube right now, which maybe a lot of you know if you've been part of a narcissistic relationship in to some degree or have had some association with that. Dr. Ramani on YouTube. She's a psychologist. She's
I watch
like
her.
that. That's her like main focus
Yeah.
is
Hey, love it.
narcissism, dealing with narcissism.
Yep.
She's got so many videos. I think she's even doing some lives now. She has books out. I mean, she just is amazing. I oftentimes when I'm working with people, I'll
I
um,
love her. Watch
refer
her.
them to watch some of her stuff because it's more succinct than anything than I could spend like a lot of time on talking
I
about.
can
But
tell you
yeah,
who
it's
I do watch, and I know some people do, some people don't. But how better to learn than from someone that has that is that, and has been diagnosed that, and has come out. But Doug introduced me to HG Tutor, and
okay.
he is a medically diagnosed narcissistic psychopath.
Hmm.
But he has a channel, and Doug and him, the relationship. Yeah, Doug knew he was fuel. Let it say. Hang on, Dr. Romney.
Hated Dr. Ramani. I like her. That's interesting. I didn't know that about Doug.
But
I
Doug
wonder why.
also went straight to the horse's mouth. Like what I'm saying is, in HG is he knows what he is. He knows he's a narcissistic psychopath. He calls himself the ultra narcissist. And but what he does is he helps people, believe it or not. That's their fuel. They got to have fuel. Um, and helping people. He said the only thing that can beat him in anything is death.
Hmm.
So he makes all these videos, and he has them planned for way into the future. So when death comes, people have instructions to keep playing his content, so death can't beat him either. But he is scary to listen to.
Spoken
But
like a
he is.
true narcissist.
It is. He will tell you, and he did a
keep my
eulogy for
keep
Doug.
my keep keep my videos alive. Um,
He's good though.
yeah.
He's got a narcissist meter. I forgot what all it's called. Uh, you can get on there and find out if you're or empath detector or narcissistic detector, and he does. You can, and he has them all labeled, and I mean he's got a lot of educational stuff on there. It's really
Yeah.
neat. So,
Um, yeah, it's a huge topic and everything from having narcissistic parents, narcissistic partner, narcissistic damage, like you said, narcissistic fuel, and then psychopathy is a whole different animal, right? I mean, that's a whole different.
hmm
You can have narcissism without psychopathy.
yes, and he's got both, and he'll say
Yeah.
that his narcissism keeps the beast of psychopathy inside. But if he doesn't get his fuel to feed his narcissism, then the beast comes out.
Hmm.
Yeah, of course, his identity's hidden and everything, but yeah, it's a lot of information.
That's why oftentimes the best way. I love the term gray rocking, and the idea there is just not to even confront. Like if you have to interact with a narcissist to just
Do you know what's funny? You're
be
saying
just
that. You know what his number one instructions are for empaths? Zero contact with a narcissist. That is what he tells you. The only safe relationship is a zero contact because we
no
hunt for
relationship.
empaths.
Yeah.
He said zero contact, none. No, don't sit there 3 weeks later and think you're going to change us because we're going to be there waiting on you to call. He said the only thing that you can do is zero contact.
Hmm. Yeah.
So he has some pretty interesting stuff. But yeah, let's see. Let me go to the start. I had some start up here. Let's see.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Azima. Amina, hi, babe. I thought I had solved some issues about some past relationships, but these 2 days have been hard because I relived everything when I did not get in. I know you've been going through a lot. I've seen that in our chats, and I'm not going to reveal that. That's not my place to reveal. But are you doing okay?
Yeah, that's hard.
Hey,
That's real
witness.
hard. When you have to when something comes up and you think, "Hey, that's thought you dealt with it," and then something brings it
Like
up
this.
and you're going through a little bit of it then.
Yeah. It's hot in here. I don't have a fan on. Oh, that
Is it
tool is awesome.
Go ahead. You wanna read that one?
I use that with my mom and ex-husband. There are times no contact is impossible, and that is true. But
Yep.
that's what she's seen the tool. It is. It's an empath and a narcissistic detector, and it's really it is effective.
The tool though also, I don't know if you were speaking to this too, but gray rocking, like just being kind of as if like not confrontational, just almost like a blank slate, not really giving fuel, not
Right.
confronting, not having anything that would be emotional, just kind of just blending into
Be
the
blank
scene and
affect.
just yeah, just don't
Blank affect. Hmm.
don't let them have any kind of either, any kind of emotion or engagement there.
No, because they think. I mean, negative is negative, positive for the person doesn't matter as long as they're getting a reaction. That's their fuel.
Mhm. That's very true.
So
The
narcissists,
negative,
yeah,
positive attention, it's
any of
all
it.
attention on them.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yep, that's a true statement. I work with it every day. Let's see. Brian, go ahead. He's
One
on.
of the Brian, okay. One of the reasons I started doing my live streams is to take people's minds off of the heavy. Yep. Hopefully I've been able to accomplish that. I think you very much have, Brian.
Yeah,
Um, I recently have been looking at some of your streams and watching some of them, and um, I appreciate what you do and I was watching the one,
witness.
I think the more recent one, the Scientology limerick from the other day, a couple days ago maybe. That was
Did
I
he read
really
his
appreciate
book?
that.
Did he read his book?
Not the one I saw, not the Scientology
Uh,
limerick one, but yeah, I
yeah, I have
know.
his book. He did so good on that. Okay. If I know that Kathy's got a bunch of storms, y'all. So if we're she had some stuff started, but I'm just gonna go to
Mm,
the live chat and look, see back up here if I
yeah,
missed any because she's definitely has the storms going on, and I don't want to miss somebody
a lot of
because
people are liking gray rock. Yeah, it's a good concept and really one that not only for narcissism, but people that might be a little bit more on the toxic side, just kind of keeping them at arm's length and not really engaging at all if you can, just very minimal contact, especially if you
yeah.
can't avoid them, and you have to have some kind of relationship with them. It's a good thought, a good way strategy. You mean they say narcissistic relationship is a cult of one. Yeah, that type of abuse leaves a lot of scars. Sure does. And ones that it's not impossible to overcome, but it does take some time and some work to do so.
And too
Definitely.
bad, we're usually the ones on the end up side of being hurt, and it takes us sometimes years and years and years just to work, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Brian, thanks for
Yes,
that.
Brian, we're gonna be doing that we're gonna do part 2 in a couple weeks. That was I think it's a definite needed discussion, but we're gonna let Brian come on and complete it, but we're gonna give him
Yeah.
a break as well. Let him when he's ready.
And I'm really interested in hearing more about the VA. I know you had said, Brian, you want to talk about that. That would be really interesting to delve into a bit more. I for some reason I feel like sometimes the VA gets a bad rep, and it would be interesting to see your perspective on that. In terms of your experience, Brian. So looking forward to maybe talking a little bit more.
Sophie.
Okay.
All right.
Um, Hi, Sophie. Is it Sophie or Sophia? I've heard both. Keela's
Probably
like, I'm
Sophia,
not
and I've been saying it
I'm not
wrong the
sure.
whole time.
I just wanna
She
make
knows
sure I'm saying these
hey, she
names
can't
right.
even I don't know how she functions. As with many lives as Tori had the other night. Her and Lovett were on, like, from midnight all the way the next day. I'm like, "How are
Oh
y'all
my
even
gosh.
functioning?"
And you know
But
what?
anyways,
Tori is on so late, and she just, like, rolling with it.
when
I mean,
she went
she's
to
like a night
court
owl.
I know when she went
What?
to court, she was there at court that morning, and then she did a live in the courthouse, and everybody's like, "Stop, no, don't do that."
Wow.
And then she was on that night, and then that I'm like then our midnight with McGill, I was like, "Holy crap." I was like, Sophie, how are you even staying awake? And she was like, I can barely see.
No kidding.
I said, on the other
Um,
hand, there's a deeper understanding of each other faster because we kind of understand deep talk just makes it we can. Yes, I understand that. The trust situation.
oh yes. And just like maybe there's an understanding, are you saying, about just being in this realm and being able to it's interesting because sometimes there's like maybe you're speaking on that too is there's just that connection of like you don't have to go through always like surface level conversations. You can just kind of it can get really deep really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Um, everybody's saying, I'm reading now. I had went back up and everybody's saying HG tutor scares them. It scared me the first time, not when he was with Doug. Talking with Doug, he didn't scare me, but when I went and followed HG and started going back to some of his other videos or other posts, and one I made Daryl listen. I made my mom, which is a mental health registered nurse. I made her listen. I'm like, I gotta listen to this. What is going on? It's the first time I'd ever heard. And he said, and it might have been on Doug's that he said that answering a question, but I'm not sure. Somebody may can correct me. But HG said, you don't want to know who I am. I'm who lets you sleep at night. It's my type that allows you to sleep safe at night. I was like, holy crap.
Mhm.
But he was talking about, doing jobs that people with emotions can't do, and I was assuming the military or something like that. But he is from across the pond, or what Doug said anyway. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Let's see. Um, okay, wait. A question from us, no, from Kathy Ann.
Okay, at the end, when in my previous marriage I became so numb emotionally, I got called a sociopath just because of the flat affect. Can you talk about numbness due to trauma? That's a good point. And that needs to be like distinguished, right, Kathy? And so it's numbness and kind of flat affect or lack of emotionality is not necessarily pathological. It can be definitely, like you said, a coping mechanism to get through a situation. It can happen right when we're under duress, when we're trying to just cope and move along. Um, Trauma, a lot of people compartmentalize and they like can numb out something to try to go forward. Um, Maybe a fear of even expressing emotion. Maybe there's messages of what emotions are okay or not okay, or maybe there's messages you're not like from growing up, childhood years of like you can't express any emotions, right? There's sometimes families that will family backgrounds that will kind of set that down as like okay, you can't express this emotion, that emotion, or any emotion. So that's a good point. Numbness can be definitely um, a way of coping. Um, Sociopath is something different, right? Because it's more um, just on a side note too. There's also I want to distinguish that from something like a schizophrenia or a psychotic symptom, which can be lack of emotion. And that is
Right.
something specific to that disorder. And so
Yeah.
there's so many ways that you can see something. So that's why it's really important to as me as a therapist, for instance, knowing the person I'm talking to and really getting into their history and understanding where that numbness or that lack of emotion is coming from. Um,
Yeah.
of course. So, um, and
I
sometimes
definitely
even
agree with that.
yeah, and sometimes people even on we know like kids or adults on the spectrum don't show emotion as readily as emotional like affect on their face as some. So there's a whole bunch of I could go on and on
Yeah.
obviously about a lot of different cases, but
Yeah.
um
Sociopath is not. Yeah. No.
yeah. So um yeah,
Sociopathy is a
there's
whole different thing in itself.
that's
That's
right.
just something that people like to use to hurt other people, call them that. Kathy
Yeah.
Ann,
I
you're
mean
far.
yeah. There's and yeah, I'd be wondering more about what's going on for them than what's going on for you. I mean, I would be concerned about what's going on for you, but not yeah. Um
Let's see. as Sophie.
Mhm. I'm naturally non-reactive and somewhat numb, and that drove my biological grandfather insane because I just wouldn't engage no matter how much he pushed us being alone. Um, because I wouldn't. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm sorry that that went on for you. I think, there's a whole range of people's expression of emotionality. And I also want to say there's another component here too is not only family background, but cultural background.
Right.
Um, that could be a factor. And individual characteristics. Um, some people aren't comfortable showing emotion. Doesn't mean they don't feel it. It's just that it's not outwardly expressed. So I think there should be
Yeah.
uh, you know, that should be distinguished too, because um,
There's witness. I'm sorry. This is funny.
yes,
Witness. I know, right?
yes, HG was super creepy. I totally left the click path alone. I only saw him on Doug's channel, and he was scary AF. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I haven't seen him. Now I'm interested to check him out, or
oh
maybe
wait,
not.
no,
I don't
Levin
know.
has it. Here we go. There's Levin. Yeah. Without
Mm.
Doug, he is scary.
You know what is interesting specifically about psychop psychopathy in general is some of the characteristics. I mean, they can be quite charming and quite likable. So,
Really?
yeah,
That's how
yeah.
they get their prey. Yep, that's how they get their prey.
I
Sophie.
did for a year in between my graduate or undergraduate and graduate year.
Hmm.
I was in a research lab where we did research going into the prisons in Wisconsin and studying psychopathy. And it's just interesting. It was specifically looking at the reward versus punishment system, seeing if cues in their environment, looking at punishment, could be integrated to say, like, stop your behavior. So we'd prime like a reward for them. And then we'd say, okay, here's some punishment cues are coming in, like, stop doing this. And the theory is that it's like actually a brain, um, the brain is kind of wired a little bit differently with psychopathy that they
Yes, a little
don't
bit.
they don't
Yeah.
integrate punishment cues. They just are like, if they figure this is what they're going towards, whether that's something bad or whatever it is, it's like that's it, and they're not gonna stop. So that's
Yeah. So
kind of
Jeffrey Dahmer, let's say that.
mhm. He
Uh,
was in Wisconsin, sure.
and, yeah, and he was like the great. When you met him, he didn't do anything to make anyone hate him when they met him. Just when they.
He just seemed like a regular guy is what a lot of people
Yeah.
said, right? I mean,
Yep.
maybe yeah.
He
Um,
was. But the
yeah,
event
you're
that
right.
turned him into that was his father and the mother, and I don't think that it was meant either one. When I watched, I don't know anybody else has seen. I watched that documentary. Okay, when the last one that came out with him, or the
Mhm,
I think it was on Netflix. Okay, so I've watched all the, and I could sit there as well, being in the mental health field, and I watched the. I was like, that's not helping. I can understand the dad's trying to spend time with him by skinning animals, but what the mother's doing on this side here, you have two forces
mhm.
that combined and made the perfect storm for a sociopath or psychopath or just the antisocial personality disorder.
Right. Right. And I think Kathy Ann asked a question earlier on that said, like, can some of this be diagnosed before 18? No, but
No, no,
we can see a trend of like conduct disorder. It starts out with oppositional defiant disorder. If it turns into conduct disorder, which is a little bit more going against
yep.
authority figures and starting to engage in some criminal type
And
against the
then
law
let's see,
behaviors, and then it can
we
develop.
have adjustment disorder. And I mean, I have so many residents and patients through the years that I don't take anybody under 18. But even at 18, they don't want to put a label on anyone. And I understand that. But here is, and I may look at this all wrong and different than other people, but I work in this 24/7. And here's the way I see it. If you or 18, 17, 16, 12. I don't care. If
Mhm.
you do not have a conscience, you're not going to grow one by the time you're 18. I mean, you either and I used to say you're either born with the soul or you're born without one. Just
Mhm.
watching when I first was in school learning about all this stuff, I'm like, they can't grow a conscience. I mean, they're skinning a cat alive at 12. They're doing it at 18. What's the difference? But you still cannot make that diagnosis.
Right.
So that's kind of, yeah, there's just time to,
Someone said, I don't know if it was Witness or you mean
that's what I'm
about
looking for.
Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy,
Oh, I got
yeah,
to get way
was
back down here.
anyway, he was my understanding is very charismatic and very ingratiating to other people, and so that obviously made people kind of let their guard down, I'm sure. Um,
I think I missed. Oh, right here. Well, witness
I don't know, how
testimony.
did we get on this topic? That's
I
okay.
don't know. Now we're talking about Dahmer.
We're talking about levity, and now we're talking about serial killers.
Hey.
Okay. Well, it took a turn, like Reese says, this takes a turn. This takes a turn. Dahmer was uttered docile and submissive at the start. Yep,
Yes, very
that's
was.
true.
Much was. Yep.
Hmm.
Okay, let's see. Tiff. I grew up in a very mafia-esque family, and that's what it is like. Now that had to be something.
Yeah.
Tiff,
Um,
that had to be something. I don't even know. Ooh, let's see. Love it.
in terms of, sorry, I was just going to ask to follow up on that question.
Okay.
The Was it very much like that in terms of like expressing emotion or not expressing emotions? I was curious about that. I would imagine showing emotion or any kind of vulnerable emotion would probably be seen as weakness. If and that's my stereotype, but I'd be interested to know.
Now let's see. Need to write this. Oh, wait. Okay, so here you go. This is why I turned.
I
There we
think a
go.
lot of us are crime enthusiasts. Oh,
Here-
sorry, I didn't.
here-
And I think this line of conversation turned around me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I think so.
Yeah.
It it
Yes.
it is interesting because when I was doing my training in clinical psychology, there's a program in forensic psychology, and
Okay, there's Tiff.
they got so excited and emotional, like they got so wrapped up in some of these topics too. It's like it was interesting. Yes, you couldn't have any emotion. Thank you for
Okay.
clarifying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine
Um,
that's tough. That's real tough to
okay.
do that.
Now there's Living.
The Sopranos was all about how psychopaths can be charming and likable. It begins in a therapy office for that reason. The reveal is in the second to last episode. Yeah. Um,
Okay. Why did I not know that?
and by the way, I love how therapists are always represented in shows and movies. That's so interesting to me. That's I don't know if anyone's seen the show with Harrison Ford and Jason Segel. Shrinked, is it called? Shrinked? It's on
I haven't seen
is
it.
Apple TV. Anyway, it's really interesting because it shows like that therapist, this, Jason Segel plays kind of a guy who doesn't have it together, but he's a therapist trying to help other people. It's funny.
Oh yeah. I don't have everybody goes on my car talk and says this girl ain't got crap together, and then I get on mental health.
Mhm.
I'm trying to help you. Yeah,
Right?
trust me. Hey, we do what we can do just to help. Let's see. Wait. I understand that psychopaths mimic emotion. Yes, they learn to fit in. Yes, they learn
Mhm.
from watching others. That's why therapy is not good to put a psychopath, sociopath in because they just learn how to get better at mimicking people and emotions. Honing their skills, I think. That's my opinion. What do you think about that one, Gretchen?
Yeah, I don't know because there's also not really a feeling of wanting to change. I'm not sure that therapy would
They
be
don't want
quite
to help.
that
Mm-mm.
productive,
No, they
right?
just learn how to fit in more. They just watch their peer, watching that tells them what emotions they should use next, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
and oftentimes there's just not a lot of desire for insight or that kind of thing
Yeah.
either. All right. I'm Sophia. I'll call you Sophie. No. I mean that they wouldn't be as successful as if they outrightly were violent and psychotic, so they developed the charm just like they put on a suit. Yeah, that's true.
That's true. That is true.
Um,
DJ.
hey Blake.
Blake, you here? I'm not in that. I
Um,
can't see. Hey, Blake. Nico, well, there is a, in my honest opinion, a connection of criminal behavior and abusive behavior as boundaries and laws are broken equally. Now, that's a good, that's, yeah, I would say so.
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
that's a
that's
good
true. That's a
thought.
good analogy. Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
like that. Yeah, because, I mean, they don't care. Oh, wait. Okay, so there it is. Shrink.
Shrink, is it called Shrink?
I have
Okay,
to
thank
watch it.
you.
I have to watch it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a funny show. I mean, it is. It is Harrison
I
Ford,
gotta
Jason
watch it.
Segel, and a couple other people I can't think off the top of my head, but yeah.
Oh, Hamina.
So all of this to say that this
Oh,
morning I submitted my application to psychology. Okay,
congratulations,
nice.
Hamina.
Very nice. What kind of can I ask what kind of, if you want to put in the chat, what kind of psychology or what are you going for? Um, is it like undergraduate, graduate work? Very cool. Congrats. And I
I'm
think
so oh, wait. Hey, let me put this up here real
mhm,
quick, and then I'll scroll down. It's shrinking. Shrinking.
shrinking.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me see. Did Hamina, where you at? Oh, let's see. I've got this. Let's see. Oh, wow.
How awesome is that? I'd be really
That's
interested to hear in your process there because I'm a psychologist and I'm married to an engineer and he thinks
that's
very black and white and I'm always in the gray area. So we have very interesting discussions and like minds, very different mindsets
yeah.
in some ways. I mean, he can think in gray too, but very much at one point he said to me, everything can be reduced down to a yes or no question. I said, nah, I don't know. I
I
don't
know,
know.
right? That's yeah. That's what.
But that's his
Okay.
very
So
binary way. Yeah. Hey,
we
Blake.
have a live from Blake. He's fixing to put us to work here.
Yep. Hey, Keilah. Hey, Dr. Gretchen. A question. Dr. Gretchen, did you have to have a master's in statistics in order to get your degree in position in psychology? Also, ACT and ACT scores a requirement. So my process was, and I don't know, I can't speak to everyone, but I'll speak to my experience. I got my undergraduate degree in psychology, just obviously general psychology. And then I went on to graduate school in a professional program, one of those professional schools of psychology, and I got my what they call PsyD, right? Doctorate of psychology.
Hmm.
Um, so I went for the doctorate. You could practice in some positions with a master's degree, whether it's I mean, there's so many different areas, right, of being a counselor if that's the goal. No, I didn't have to, but to answer your question, I didn't have to get a master's in statistics. Statistics obviously was some coursework I had to do both for undergraduate and graduate, but not a master's in statistics, just like master's in psychology in my graduate program, but I continued on to the doctorate. And then SAT and AC scores were a requirement for um, undergrad, sure. And then I'd have to take the GRE, the graduate exam for graduate school. So those are the two different exams.
Okay. So let's see. Here we go.
Have you ever helped people with depersonalization, derealization? If not, have you ever studied it? Um, Only a few cases where people felt more, let's say, detached, and I've only had maybe 2 cases in the time that I've been, doing the kind of work I'm doing, with, like, something like dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called, like, multiple personality disorder. Um, so those have been
That's very
interesting.
rare. Yeah, that if
Yeah.
you get one of those, boy, that's steady up. I mean, like your ears perk up.
Yeah, yeah, and that's obviously, there's some usually, in those cases, there's, like, quite a extensive history of trauma. So,
Okay, hang on. I'm losing myself here. Okay, and um,
I'm going from bus
wait.
driver to HR and coaching, Nico, DJ Nico.
Oh wow.
Awesome, awesome. Coaching, you mean like life coaching or sports coaching or what kind of coaching? I'd be interested to know. But HR, that's really cool too. Nice.
Okay, let's see. Hamina.
Okay, here we study the undergraduate and then you do the master's and then I can do therapy. That's true. In some countries, that's very true. I'm not sure. I don't know if you know Kilo or Hamina, where you're, well,
She's in
where you're
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah.
I want to see how fast I can do it. I will be old when I
You're
finish,
not
but I really
old.
want to do it. I don't know. Based on that picture, you're not old to me. I don't think
I
you
can
are
look.
old.
So everybody that says that, I want to say this. Think about where you were. Just think, like right now, 10 years ago. Okay, so what all has happened between 10 years ago and now? Do you know you would have already been finished school and graduated and practicing? So it's never too late, and you're never going to be too. I mean, I think I was like 38 when I decided to go to law school. Come on now, that was too
Mhm.
old for that, but I did it. So, and I'm used to working in medicine, but I did it. Y'all don't think it's ever too late. It's not. It's really not, because if you sit here and you're saying, I'm sitting here saying, 10 years ago, if I would have started something, I'd be finished by now. You just don't
Mhm.
know how fast time flies, guys. Don't let that.
But also, I think for me personally, I don't know how the rest of you feel. It's really inspiring to see. Like, I remember when I was in a couple undergraduate classes, I sat next to someone that was maybe in their 60s or 70s
Mhm.
doing going and learning, like, it was a Spanish class or whatever, and it was, really just cool. I mean, because it just shows, like, it's never no matter how old you feel like you are or actually are, I mean, and I see so many people changing career paths because if you're
Yeah.
unhappy, life is too short to be unhappy. If you're not or something's not working, just, you know, obviously there's logistics involved, right? And practical matters, but other than that, you got to do what you got to do to make yourself feel, to get work towards that happiness and that fulfillment, my opinion.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna go up here to the starred ones real quick. I'm getting behind. Sorry.
The world kind of runs on antisocial personalities doing the ugly stuff that people don't want to even think that needs to happen. Yeah, and
Yeah,
unfortunately
that's what.
yeah,
That's true.
there are um yeah, there are a lot of things that people so when I went, just as an example, I went to the and not saying that these people are antisocial at all, but I went up to northern Wisconsin to the female, like it was minimum, medium, and maximum security.
Mhm.
And like some of the so I got along with some of the inmates, definitely more than the guards. There was one guard in particular, I remember she was just not she was in the
Yeah.
maximum security housing unit and she kind of had to be tough, obviously, but it was like I had to go ask for the bath to go to the bathroom, like, past her guard desk, and she had to open up, like, in the staff bathroom, and I was scared. I,
Yeah.
like, held it as long as I could because I was like, "I do not wanna ask that guard because like."
Yeah. I
But I mean,
look.
that would be a job I mean, all the credit to those people because that would be a job I couldn't handle myself. It would be you'd have to be
Right.
on edge all the time, and it's a hard job to do, I'm sure. I
Let's
learned
see.
to
I
mimic
learned.
the go ahead, go
Go
ahead, you
ahead.
can
Go ahead, Gretchen. Go ahead. Mhm.
Okay. I learned to mimic the expected emotional response at some point in my family as a survival mechanism because I got crap for malfunctioning as a girl in their mind. And that's the hard part. It's like I hear you on that. It's there's some
Yeah.
expectation based on gender, based on family environment of how boys should
Yeah.
behave, how they should express themselves, how they should, what
The
they should behave like.
societal and family expectations do more, I think, than anything to cause trauma.
Yeah.
There you
Blake,
go,
I
Blake.
ha I had to learn how to coach and tether myself back to reality after suffering through it for 2 to 3 years after the death of my grandmother. I'm sorry. On my father's side, it was maddening. Yeah. Um,
That's
yeah, and that's also a hard thing. It's how to um I'm going through some of that myself. It's like the grief and loss. I just lost my dad in November, and it's like, how do you the whole world is moving around you, and it's like, but I am, I bet a lot of you had that experience too. It's like, well, what for a while you walk around in kind of a daze. It feels surreal.
Yeah,
So,
I just went through that reminder this past week.
yeah,
Definitely.
I know.
It's numb. It's like a cartoon in slow motion. That's the only way I can for me that I can explain it. It's
Yep.
just like being in a cartoon and everything is just moving in slow motion. Nothing seems
Yes.
real. Mhm.
Yeah, it definitely does, and it does not feel real at all. TIF 420, the one thing I love, just FYI, a lot of universities give free education to people over 65. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. What do they call
Actually,
it? Like emeritus classes or something like that, I think?
so that's good
Um,
too because, I mean, it helps, you know? There we
yeah, you
go,
never stop
paralyzed by
learning.
terrified.
Yeah.
No, don't ever stop learning.
Question, when OTs are talking to BTs and floating in and out, the alter related, what type of psychosis is that? I'm not sure I understand OTs and BTs. Am I not?
Operating thetans or talking to body thetans and floating in and out of that altered reality, what type of psychosis is that? All right,
I'm
powerless. Go.
not sure. That would be a
Uh,
question for one of our wonderful ex-Scientologists, but I don't. I was wondering a question earlier I put in a chat. I was like, I think it was in Natalie's, but anyway, I said the thing about the body things. I thought, well, what if they drop bodies and they've lived millions of years in the past, and in one lifetime you can go clear? Like, how ineffective is that if they're still not clear? I mean, isn't that weird? They
I
say,
like how
"Oh, you're
Tori
not clear."
says it. I like how Tori says it. They're just full of shit.
Yeah, I just that doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you've lived like a million lifetimes already, then yeah, I
Yeah.
don't doesn't make
I don't
sense.
know.
It's
It's
very
confusing.
ineffective. Shauna B, I'm at the beginning of a journey to learn as much as I can about the autism spectrum in order to help support my adult daughter who was just diagnosed a couple years ago. Any advice? Um, well, Keilah, you can jump in, but I would say a few things. One, I don't have the book here. I can put it in the description. I think it's um gosh. Anyway, it's about embracing certain abilities or disabilities. And autism is considered, let's say if you want to call that like a um different way of thinking. I think I always like to go from like a strength-based perspective, because potentially people on the spectrum, hopefully there's more awareness, but there's still a lot of prejudice and kind of some things going on there that she might confront, but really trying to build off the strengths of what she can do. Um and I don't know what level, when you say autism spectrum, obviously there's a range there of what it could look like. So um but just
There's a
educate yourself, and if you need support, get that for yourself, but also,
there's one
maybe
I just
m-
I'm looking on
yeah, getting her
on
support if she needs it. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Or helping her
Amazon on
support.
Amazon.com. I don't know if this is I mean, if this is when it says embracing autism, a parent's journey and acceptance. Uh, it's helping the parents come to terms with their child's autism diagnosis and navigating through that.
Mhm.
There's a lot of resources on here.
Yeah.
I was looking for the book, but I didn't remember what you just said.
Well, the one I'm thinking of
Gretchen.
is just a general book, but just about embracing differences. But yeah, I mean, getting educated is really great, is wonderful. It sounds like you're really a caring, compassionate parent to your adult daughter. So
Mhm.
um always come from perspective of embracing the difference and just finding ways to um, work on the strengths, and even using some of what society might consider as limitations. They're finding more and more job opportunities and different things that are really special about people on the spectrum. You know,
Yeah.
really some qualities about, different individual qualities about some people on the spectrum that are really wonderful. And that's just, I mean, job, but obviously there's all a bunch of other things with
So
adulthood that
there's
comes along with it.
let me drag this over here. So I'm not looking all the way off. Um, so I'm seeing it says just these are just a few things it says, Shauna. It says recognize the strengths. Encourage your child to explore and embrace their unique strengths and interests. It also says be patient and empathetic.
Mhm.
Understand sensory needs. That's that's the big one because of the triggers. And then it just says seek professional guidance and do your research. Just embrace it. And that's
Yeah, and if you have a professional in your area that's is around you that it again depends on, where your daughter is in the spectrum, but and what, level of um, kind of how it impacts her life. But I would probably see if there's a specialist in your area that deals with, or a center that deals with, adult folks with on the spectrum. That might be helpful as well for resources and support.
the strength-based perspective idea. She's an artist author, but struggles with social and executive function stuff. Thank you for being here and offering your insights. Anytime, anytime. And you can
Mhm.
also reach out, Shauna, in the Facebook group, or you can email if you want to have further conversation with that and need to help
Yeah,
with further
of
resources. We
course.
don't. Please reach out. Let's see. Okay,
Yeah.
Sophie.
Ironically, I got out of our family environment the healthiest because I wasn't emotional enough to get emotionally invested. So yeah, it was autism, I guess. Um, yeah, I mean that to be not affected as much by that, not be as impacted. I hear that. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, and I hear that. Um, I hope you're doing well
Definitely.
now. I hope you're doing well.
Yes. Okay, Heather. Go ahead.
Heather Mack, how are you doing, Heather Mack? Question concerning emotions. Isn't it hard to tell the difference between narcissist autism and numbing emotions to survive? Still trying to figure out my dad and how I was treated and communicated. So I guess I'm trying to see how to look at
Yeah.
that one. Um, yes and no. I mean, no, in terms of if you understand kind of what the mechanism there is with why there is not an expressive emotion, I would argue that narcissists actually um, don't always number their emotions. Sometimes actually they're depending. I mean, they can show their emotions. They actually can be quite emotionally reactive in many ways. Um, autism, we talk about the difference between a performance deficit and a skill deficit. The difference there is a skill deficit is something that they're just incapable, or they don't have the ability to perform, to do. So, and that you would know that if it's across situations. So, like, let's say there's a lack of emotion. It's at school, it's at home, it's at work, it's at social situations. They're just not showing emotion. So that would be a skill deficit. A performance deficit is something that's based on motivation or reinforcement. So, as an example, and this is for anyone, let alone kids with or adults with autism, but
Yeah.
so something like they're show emotion at home, show more emotional reactivity, like more emotion on their face at home, but not at school. So there's something that maybe parents do that are help reinforce that emotion. But oftentimes, so if you're talking about emotional kind of flat affect, what I think Kathy Ann was speaking to a little bit earlier about numbing, numbing is just it could be a discrete period of time based on a situational, period. Um, and maybe it's not with all emotions. So again,
Right.
of course, all those situations might not be with all emotions. It can be, certain things been numbed. I would say with the exclusion of maybe autism, depending on where they
Yeah.
fall on the spectrum, it might be more of a skill deficit of just not being able to part of it's not being able to know and react in an emotional kind of novel emotional way.
Yeah,
Um,
'cause yeah, I agree with
yeah.
that. No. Let's
I don't know if that
see.
answered your
It says
question. If it doesn't, please ask another one or clarify. My son did a program after his high school and found a job in the hospital he could do, and he loves it.
that
Awesome.
is great. That is
That's
really great.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I love when that happens, when they just find the right fit, you know?
Yes.
We all
Alright,
hope.
paralyzed to paralyzed. Body thetans are more like a collection of non-diabolical demons, like thousands of boring little ghosts attached to an operating table. I would think talking to imaginary spirits would be schizophrenoid in nature. Okay, so on the schizophrenia, that's more on I know what you're saying on, like, but that's a whole I don't know how to separate that. I can tell you on schizophrenia. Okay, so we're schizophrenia, they just because we don't hear them doesn't mean that they're not real. That goes back to perception versus reality. And people who suffer from schizophrenia and the auditory hallucinations, they don't hear them everywhere. They're only going to hear them right here. They're not going to be in their head. They're going to be out of their head, and they're going to be right here or here, like right behind them. And that's and we have a exercise, I would say, for all of the new employees. We do it like every quarter if we have a turnover, and we have a bunch of people sitting in a circle, and you know we'll go whisper to each person what they're to say when they're, and it's something different, and we'll have the new employees stand there, and then we'll tell them to start, and then we'll tell them louder, louder, and it goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and however many people are sitting in that circle saying that I hate you. You're no good. You're worthless. You're useless. And you get louder and louder, and everybody's doing it at one time. See how many seconds you could last with that.
Yeah.
Not long. I mean, and that's what they have to go through every single day. So there's really a difference in being, I'm not going to say brainwashed because I don't really know how to use, I don't know if I should use that word, but I don't know, Gretchen. I only know the part about this, the schizophrenia effect of it.
Mhm. Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if this answers this statement. Yeah, but I mean, it depends on, I guess, the cross line between spirituality, and feeling like you're connected to, um, and talking to, spirits or, that kind of thing. Or, I think the difference might be, mm, how much control you have over it. People with a psychotic process like schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder,
Yeah, they have
they're
no
gonna
control.
be, um, they have less control over some of what those auditory hallucinations will be telling them, and they'll be like responding to that internal stimuli, but they'll be reacting, rather than a belief system that they have kind of subscribe to, that they're believing in, that they're talking to these spirits, if that makes sense. So it's more like the intentional kind of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to talk to these spirits versus, um, I have this psychotic process that's going on that causes
And
hallucinations that I'm responding to and I can't control them.
yeah,
Now, with the exception, oftentimes antipsychotic medication, can help with some of those what we call positive symptoms, the
right.
hallucinations. Um, so that
Yeah.
can be helpful, but
But
yeah,
since they're not allowed
it's often out of their control. Yeah.
yeah, and they're not and they're not allowed to take, anything for mental health, being in that cult, so that's
Yeah.
interesting. That's
Yeah,
an
there could be
interesting
some
question. Yeah.
comment. I always learn so much from these talks. I'm grateful for all you share. Well, I'm grateful for you, DJ Nico. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you, Nico.
And thanks for your comments and feedback today.
Yeah, very much. Thank you. Yadira, hi, sweetheart.
I think I'm missing some people that are coming in. I haven't seen.
Well, I'm
Um,
in the starred comments, so I'm not even getting in the live chat yet.
okay. My nephew recently diagnosed with ADHD and ODD. It's being hard and will get harder for my mother and my sister since she has a 1-month-old baby girl, and not enough tools.
Yeah, dear.
Yeah.
How old is your nephew? Do you mind? I mean, I'm not. Let me jump back over to the live and see if I can get down here.
Um, and depending where with opposition to defiant disorder, I am guessing he's probably like school aged or middle school. I think usually as
8.
you get
He's
in,
8. He's 8.
yeah,
Okay.
as you get up or later in later years, they turn that to conduct disorder oftentimes if it continues and gets a little bit more intense. She has her mother and her other sisters, but limited knowledge of what to do about it. Again, speaking to the point we were talking about earlier, education is always good. Reaching out for resources. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, so it oftentimes, as we know, it kind of locates right here in your prefrontal cortex, so it's executive functioning deficits. Um, so 8, it's still
Yeah, oppositional
developing, right?
defiant disorder, they're still developing, yeah, but see, when I see that, I always my ears and antennas go up with ODD and things like
Yeah.
that.
Why does it go up for you, Keila?
Just to what I watch, I don't know, for some reason, if they're not able to get the help or get the correct help they need before they're in their teens, and then it just gets worse and worse, and then at 18, like I said, we're not in oppositional defiant disorder anymore. We're in full blown, usually, you know, a the anti-personality, and I don't want that for anybody, especially children. And I know that you can't diagnose that as a child, but there are warning signs to look for and help that could, there's you still believe that you can change those neural pathways. I don't know. Just to be honest, I don't know.
Well, and I would be interested to see like the intersection because we know ADHD can coincide with things eventually. Like some people at times, adults with ADHD have substance abuse issues or substance use because they're trying to self medicate sometimes
A
because
lot.
of, yeah.
Yes.
Um, it also could do depression, anxiety. Reason why is um, that prefrontal, those executive functioning tools are like
Mhm.
planning, organization, impulse control, right? So that
Yeah.
as you at 8, it can get you in trouble, right, in school and such at home. But as you grow older, the consequences, as you said, Keila, can get more serious. But
And
the imp-
not
and
seeing
if you're not, yeah, go ahead.
if you're not being affected by those consequences also, you dare, like, I would say, if they're if the consequences that are put down are not effective, or boundaries that are put down are not enforced and kept, that's probably gonna make it a lot worse.
Yeah.
I mean, in
Structure,
my opinion.
consistency, and I always say with kids that age, especially with ADHD, take the ODD out of it, is be sensitive to transitions, just as you would with a child with autism, but really with ADHD. Why? I mean, I'll hear parents say, well, what does your after school schedule look like? Well, they do this and this. So they go outside and they're very active and stuff. And then you're expecting them to sit down right after and do math. That's not going to work. You have to have
No.
something to kind of help them cool down, transition, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, a break or something, a snack, and then go into math as a random example. But really being, prompting them, telling them how many more minutes, just certain like tools like that can very much, it seems so like minute, but it can really help, especially a parent that's dealing with, a baby, it seems like, newborn and um
That's a big task right there.
yeah, and so and hopefully, I mean, she has some support and maybe some people that could help
Witness,
out. But yeah, structure and consistency is really important. Executive function, my
executive,
struggle.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people. Not
Okay,
easy to
so
handle.
I have one start here I would like. I probably shouldn't, but would like to. Sophie, okay, so grandma had hallucinations because I work in hospice too. Towards the end of her life, because of her pain meds. If it wasn't endangering her, we let her believe she talked to her aunt or whatever. So I'm going to say this: everyone has their own beliefs. I'm not going to push my beliefs on anyone here ever. But I will tell you, if you watch Hospice Nurse Julie here on YouTube, she explains every stage of the end of life. And so I'm just gonna give that resource. And also, if you've ever dealt with hospice or end of life or palliative care, it would behoove you to read Crossing the Creek. That tells what is actually going on physically in the body as they are transitioning. Um, yes, hospice nurse Julie, she goes through every stage of life. And Sophie, that would help you understand that they may have not have been hallucinations. So that's all I'm saying about that. Just if you can watch
Hmm.
Hospice Nurse Julie, she will explain like the whole from beginning of palliative or hospice care all the way to the crossing over and the transition. And she's got a lot of information because that's definitely may not have been a hallucination. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not real. And
Yeah.
that's
There's a lot to that. I mean, I'm sure we don't know about, right? A lot of that transitioning from this world into whatever people believe,
yes,
but just into that not no
crossing the
longer
creek.
being
That book.
physically here. Yeah.
Mhm. That book was the best book I think I've ever most informative because of the work that I do. Also, I'm kind of got the mental health part, and then I've got hospice on top of that. That is there because they are mental health, but they're also at the end of their life. And
Mhm.
I never. There's my residents as they do their transition. They will never be alone. We were always there to be with them. I don't care if I'm up there for 2 weeks. That's as long as it takes them. That's as long as I stay. I hold their
Mhm.
hand. They don't leave this world alone. So that's just because of that work that I do. We have several hospice patients. Um, wait, where else was I going to? I think I missed. Oh, Tiff, what she said, hospice or Sheila. Yes, yeah, she's good. And it's short videos, so I mean, it don't take long. It's just really short videos, but she explains it so well.
To 420, I think with all the meds I take, they create a numbness, not necessarily even my mental health meds. It's possible. I mean, that's something to think about because, I mean, I've heard that about mental health meds, obviously, that maybe a person's no longer depressed, really in a deep rut in terms of depression, but they're not feeling other emotions. So definitely if that happens, be in contact with, your doctor about it. But um yeah, something to be aware of just to keep track and to figure that out. But that is a good point. Sometimes our medications or other physical stuff that's going on for us can cause this kind of malaise or numbness or, you know, um,
See, Blake's got a question.
yeah. And then I have to,
Yeah,
talk
you have a hard
myself.
stop. Yeah.
When I started developing dissociative behaviors, I felt like I was losing my emotions by sensitive care. I had no idea how to articulate it, and it was actually numbness as a side effect. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me get yeah, I'm gonna get through these really quick, if I have already
I appreciate you sharing
okay, wait,
that.
I've
It's
got that
it's
one.
yeah.
Let's see,
Any comments? Anything you wanna
I'm sorry, I'm trying to grow I'm, like, just
Okay.
really we've
Yeah.
got if you have to go, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get through some of them.
Yeah, yeah. I've always thought that we as people are in some way under the control of a cult of opinions. Some claim they don't care what others think, and some people do. I think we all do. I would agree with that, Blake, I think a lot of people would. It's this idea of also, like, you think about in my line of work, psychology, or even in society, it's like, what's deviant behavior? Well, deviant behavior is away from the norm. Well, what's the norm, and who dictates the norm, right? Speaking to your point, it's like, well, what if we all
Mhm.
have to agree on a certain reality or normative behavior to have someone deviate away from that, right?
And see, that's what I was
So,
saying about this, like, I do better at night. I work better at night,
mhm,
and I have adult ADHD, but my mom said, "It's not just that you were always a night owl from the day you were born." She was like, "You were always up at night," and so now they have me on this sleeping medication that I do not like at all. It's not
mhm.
working for me. It's making me feel so tired all day long. I don't like that. But I'm gonna cut it down to half today and see if but I mean, because I told my doctor that I wasn't sleeping, uh, or actually she gets a printout on my from my Apple Watch diagnostics every single night. So she actually told me I wasn't sleeping. And
Yeah.
so they put me on this medication that I do not like because but it's to fit the social norm. Just because I'm a night owl and work better at night doesn't mean that I have to take a medication to make myself go to sleep at night if I do better at night. So if I sleep a little bit later in the morning, so what? But that's societal norm that we are all being in a box, you know? I mean, that's just my opinion of
Right.
that one.
Yeah. No, that's a good example too. It's like, well, because when the sun goes down, people normally sleep, but that doesn't mean that people that have a reverse pattern is
Mhm.
something is wrong with them. As long as they're getting a decent amount of sleep, and that's good for them, and it's
Well,
not
she told me that I
affecting
wasn't
their
getting enough
health.
REM sleep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you get that? I'm sorry, Mandy.
Mandy, hey everyone. I'm always late. No, that's okay. My son has autism, ADHD, and ODD. It's really hard, especially as a single parent with depression, CPSD, and a bunch of other stuff. Pretty sure they stem from the CPSD. Um, yeah, that I can see that that's difficult because that's you have a lot going on there. But,
Mm,
it's one, and I don't know if I'm reading this right, if you're feeling like you're putting some blame or some onus on yourself, I would say try not to do that. I've had even when I used to work more in the field of autism, I had parents come up to me and say, like this particular parent, he was an older dad. He says, "Oh, is this because I'm an older dad or this or that?" I mean, just so many different narratives out there about what causes these things. And to be honest, I look at it as let's just go, and it's hard not to. I'm not trying to say don't, do that to yourself, but um yeah, I hear you. It's a lot to take on, and
yeah.
I think Kilo would probably mimic this, I'm guessing, but just, you know, do as much as you can and know where your limits are, and hopefully you can get some support as well,
Yeah,
and
the
learn
support
more.
is
Yeah,
reach out, get support, work I mean, resources.
yeah,
I will do anything I can to locate resources for you. Just email us,
exactly.
and Kathy's put the email. Well, I mean, email us, and if you need resources from, just tell me where you're at, and I will do everything I
Another
can to
one
find it.
I put on the Facebook group, and I just want to say for because there's been a lot of questions about having a lot going on, and having kids, whether younger minors or adult children. Um, 211 is like a national. If you go, I think it's 211.org. Um, that's a good starting point for a lot of these things, like whether it's mental health, whether it's
Yes,
respite care or hospice or information. They oftentimes you can locate and put in your area, and they'll come up with at least as a starting point of resources for people. So
right.
that's just another resource.
Yeah, the 2-in-1 in Texas, they you call them, they can help you with Medicaid, they can help you get signed up for, SNAP benefits. They help you point towards mental health resources. I mean, they really, yeah, the 2-in-1 is just full of
So that's
resources.
within the US. So those folks
Mhm.
that are not in the US, I'm hoping you guys can locate some services or know of some services or can ask. But
And if
that's,
you
yeah,
do
within
know
the
of
US.
out of the US, please let us Facebook know. We'll post it in the Facebook
Yeah,
group.
exactly. The more information we have, the more resources we have, the better, I think. You have any more
Um,
questions
no,
here?
that's
I
all.
just want to make
She's
sure.
top story. Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna let you have the last word, and I know you have this hard stop you have to go.
Yeah. No, I just appreciate everyone coming. I think we wanted to make this, Keelan, I just want to make it kind of open-ended today. Um, to answer any questions, and by all means, if you have questions or comments or something that we did not address completely, because we're trying our best to cover a lot of different things today, please email us at your mental health matters to number two us at gmail.com, and we'll get back with you, because we really want to be helpful in the best way we know. um,
The
so I'll leave it with
Facebook
that.
group.
Hmm.
Uh, Kathy or one of the mods will post it, the Facebook group link.
Okay. All right, anything else, Keela?
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming and thank our fabulous mods. They have done amazing
Hmm.
again. And thank you for just
Thank you.
keeping this It's really, I mean, it's informational, but it's also just so casual, and it's something that we really needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks
and I
everyone for
appreciate
coming.
all y'all being here. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for those who might be watching later too.
Yes, the replay crew, we definitely see you. I read every comment. We get in there and we get them. I know that Gretchen has a lot more on the Facebook side to do than I do, but uh, I'm trying to keep up over here on this. The dogs are
All
out.
right.
He's
All right.
home. Dogs
Take
are
care,
out.
everybody.
All right.
Have a
Thank
good
y'all for
Friday.
coming. See
Bye
you
bye.
later.